Hey there, everyone. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Frazier. Thanks for sticking around. It's a little crazy today out here, so we're all working our hardest to make sure that you guys are informed and have the best possible kind of information. All right, so what are we looking at? You were probably looking at that sky cam thinking, what exactly am I looking at? Well, that's a great question. So here is that sky cam. It's actually looking from our station toward Midland International Airport. The problem is, well, it's very wet and foggy. And here's the funny thing. I have a heater and a windshield wiper on this, but it's already freezing over. So that is going to be the big concern heading into the overnight hours. We have seen a lot of decent rainfall all throughout the day today, and then we go ahead and we just see a lot of that rain and little puddles left around. That's going to begin freezing over tonight. And right now, even temperature-wise, it doesn't seem too terribly bad. We're in the 20s. Yeah, we're probably not going to get above this possibly until Monday afternoon. So this is going to be, one of the warmest times that we see throughout the weekend. All right, feels like 17. Yikes. Okay. Well, that's given a bit of that northeasterly wind. Sustained right now, 17 miles an hour, 92% humidity. Overall, doesn't seem too terrible, let's put it that way, but a lot more of those 20s are beginning to pop up on the map. Look at that, Snyder down to 22, Big Spring at 27, Seminole at 26, Hobbs at 28, same goes for Andrews. Artesia staying a little bit warmer at 34. Much of the Trans-Pecos is still in those 40s, and along the Rio Grande, where that cold front has yet to move through, we are in those 60s and 70s. All right, 60s and 70s. That sounds very, very pleasant right about now. Okay. Let's check that radar. Now, radar just looks like an absolute mess, but notice this. This is on a 2-hour loop. Notice how a lot of that rain is starting to kind of fizzle out and becoming a little bit more scattered as opposed to, a lot more of the widespread stuff. All right, that's a good start, but I want to zoom in on where that freezing point is. You can kind of almost draw a line of exactly what we're seeing in terms of that actual potential rainfall and where that freezing point is. As a matter of fact, given the latest run, that's where that new freezing line is, extending kind of all the way out, maybe even starting to close in on San Angelo. So that's where we're seeing more and more of that freezing potential kind of moving out toward Pecos, down toward Crane, even Ira Ann, Fort Stockton. Yep, and even now San Angelo is going to start getting a little bit of that freezing rain. So, but we're also looking at not just freezing rain, but the chance for some of that sleet. That's going to be that purple stuff on there. So we got freezing rain, we got some sleet, and then kind of out into our northeastern corner there, Snyder, that's where we're seeing a little bit of that potential snowfall, just because the biggest problem is, well, it's not really the temperatures on the ground. Temperatures on the ground right now are heavily supporting a lot of that snowfall, but the temperatures in the upper atmosphere are not. That's why we're seeing that chance for a lot of icing over the next couple of days rather than just pure snowfall. So, you know what? If you got to blame anything, blame the upper atmosphere. Why is it so warm? Well, we've been getting a lot of very warm air into our area over the past few days, and now we're seeing that chance for that sleet, that freezing rain, and that snowfall. Let's look at the current run. This is active as of right now. I'm looking at Odessa and Midland. It's really almost near the county line, that split right there. Or even, I believe, what highway is that off the top of my head? State Highway 191? Or no, I'm sorry, that's 349. 349, that's almost the dividing line between the sleet and that freezing rain. Luckily, nothing looks too crazy as of right now, but this is just the beginning. We're going to start seeing a lot more of this stuff beginning to accumulate. And of course, there are going to be some radar discrepancies. I don't think that we're looking at downtown Midland or Big Spring actually getting some of that snowfall. I could be wrong. Then again, when is a weatherman ever correct? That's a great question. I don't know. I'll let you know when I do. All right, here's what I am looking at though. Winter watches and warnings. There's a lot of stuff on here. So let's break it down. Winter storm warning. That is currently in effect across much of our region. That's not going to be changing anytime soon either. But let's actually see what exactly does it entail. I actually have on here, if I pop it up, Carlsbad, Hobbs, Midland, Odessa, winter storm warning. That is in effect until noon Central Standard Time on Sunday. It affects just about a little under 500,000 people. But then you head down to Presidio, Big Bend. What is this? This is new. I haven't seen that before. Well, it's because we really haven't seen a whole lot of action farther down to the Rio Grande because they are on the cooler side. They're on the warmer side, but they have a cold weather advisory. Ooh, okay. Yeah, that's because they're still going to see those cold temperatures, possibly getting below the freezing point, but they're not looking at that chance for any big time accumulation. That's going to affect about 18,000 people. And if you head a little bit farther west toward El Paso, toward Van Horn, that's going to be a winter weather advisory in effect until 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, and that's going to be about 1,200 people in that region. Well, let's go ahead and clear up that box, and I want to zoom out on the entire state, kind of get an idea of, hey, you might have family, friends in other parts of Texas or even other parts of the country. Yeah, basically the entire Lone Star State is under this winter storm warning, from Dallas to Waco to Austin to San Antonio to Houston. And notice how you're seeing a little bit of that purple out there, possibly out toward Tyler, out toward Lufkin, even in toward parts of Louisiana. That's going to be, if I'm not mistaken, ice storm warning. I'm sorry, I can't see these colors all that well. Let me get the question mark tool on here. Yep, that's going to be ice storm warning in effect until Sunday at 6 p.m. Out toward Tyler, that's going to be, or Lufkin, Nacogdoches, that's going to be until Sunday at 6 p.m. Out toward Tyler, that's going to be still Sunday at 6 p.m. And even parts of, looks like Athens, Gun Barrel City, Palestine, Teague, Texas, we're looking at Sunday. Yeah, lots and lots of ice associated with this stuff. So just kind of a real big ice storm, and that's unfortunately kind of what we don't want to see. We don't want to see a whole lot of ice. I'd much rather deal with the snow than the ice any day. But this is going to be a large-scale kind of winter event. This extends all the way up into Kansas. It extends into Missouri. It extends into Arkansas. Even you want to head all the way up, yeah, it's going up to Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, even out toward Massachusetts and Vermont. So this, let's just zoom out to the entire United States. Yeah, basically, if you are east of the Rocky Mountains, you're going to be under some type of winter weather watch or warning. Exceptions going to be South Georgia and much of Florida. I mean, no surprise there. Okay, so what exactly can we expect for at least the next couple of hours? Great question. Here's what I got for tonight. Freezing rain, 19 degrees. Not ideal. I got about 70% coverage of that precipitation, northeasterly wind sustained at about 14 miles an hour. That's going to mean we're certainly going to see wind chill values getting down into the single digits possibly. As we move a little bit farther into the forecast, those wind chill values can easily dip down into the negatives. And that's what I find to be the most interesting, because this entire event is not really a wind kind of event. It's just going to be a lot of that ice and that snow accumulation over anything else, because we're going to be at about 72 hours, if not a little bit longer, staying below that freezing point. So let's go ahead and check out worst case scenario. Maybe you got to drive somewhere. Maybe you got to work. Maybe you work in media just like us, or you work as a first responder. Here's what I recommend as you head out the door tomorrow. You're going to want about 5 to 10 minutes extra just to scrape the ice off your car. Now, if you've lived up north for any amount of time, you know, you see like the typical snow brushes. As a matter of fact, that's not going to be too hard. You just brush the snow off. This is not going to be snow. This is going to be ice. It's going to be rock solid. You're going to need to bang it out a little bit. Now, I don't recommend like a hammer or anything really heavy, but maybe something blunt like your fist, maybe even like a rubber mallet, just to like kind of tap the window, tap your hood, tap your headlights too. That's another trick. You might easily see your headlights covered in ice. Well, water scatters light, so your headlights aren't going to be all that effective. As a matter of fact, it might be shining up toward the sky as opposed to illuminating the roadway, which is what you want to see because you might run into that patchy ice. So keep that in mind. Give yourself some extra time to clear off your car unless you got a garage or a covered parking spot. Other than that, yeah, we're still going to see that chance for significant clearing of your vehicle. But that's not even including your commute. I highly recommend giving yourself double the time to drive. If you live 20 minutes away, take 40 minutes. Why? Do I think it's going to take you 40 minutes to get there? No, but I want you to not be stressed. I want you to give yourself plenty of time to get where you need to. I recommend, with icy conditions, doing at least 10 under the speed limit. I know that's the opposite of how we normally drive. It's minimum 10 over. No, this time around, especially if you're nearing bridges are going to be kind of the hardest part. Bridges freeze first. Why? Because the top and the bottom of the road are exposed to the extremely cold temperatures versus if it's just on the ground, it's just the top of the road right there. So keep that in mind. Give yourself plenty of time. Luckily, there's not going to be a whole lot of people out and about on the roadways, ideally. So just give yourself plenty of distance. Give yourself plenty of time. I'm going to be doing the same as well. And if it gets too bad, then you know what? I'm just going to make myself a little spot under my desk here. So here's what to see over the next couple of days. Actually, let's go a little bit slow with this. All right, so here we are. We are past 6 o'clock. We're just seeing a little bit of that icy precipitation taking place north of Interstate 20, and that's going to continue into the later part of the night, possibly extending farther south as that cold front begins to push its way across the Trans-Pecos. Looking at Pecos, Fort Stockton, around 9 o'clock, transitioning from that light to moderate rainfall into that freezing rain. Yeah, it's going to be around 10, 11 o'clock tonight, maybe extending as far south as Alpine, but it's all going to depend on those air temperatures more than anything else. Once we hit about midnight to 2, 3 a.m., a lot of that stuff is moving its way out of the Permian Basin, but notice how Artesia, Carlsbad, Hobbs, New Mexico, they're still going to see the chance for that freezing precipitation until about 4 a.m., and then it kind of just fizzles out, and we are left with relatively clear skies. I mean, still cloudy, but clear in terms of precipitation heading into early Saturday morning. Okay, that seems pretty good. So, okay, maybe, not that I recommend it, best time to really drive anywhere. You got to head to work on your Saturday. You know what? The morning commute is not going to be as bad because you're just going to see that patchy ice, but it's not going to be accumulating until later in the day. Look at this, 2 o'clock. Ooh, yeah, that is going to be some moderate freezing rain to even sleet moving its way through into the early afternoon. Odessa, Midland, Big Spring from around 4 to 7 p.m. on Saturday. We're going to get that next round of that freezing rain and that sleet. By around 10 o'clock, it's nice and calm. Snow begins falling out toward Carlsbad. Guadalupe Pass extending as far south as Van Horn right around 10 p.m. on Saturday. Temperatures are not warming up. They are going to get colder and colder even through Sunday into possibly Monday. That's when we're going to see overnight snowfall. Okay, so you got ice and then you got the snow on top of it. That might give you a false sense of security because you know what? Maybe you've lived in an area where it snows a lot. Driving through snow is not as hard as driving through ice. Driving through snow, okay, yeah, your big 4x4 truck will certainly help out in the snow, but in ice doesn't care what you drive. Ice does not discriminate whatsoever. So keep that in mind. That heavy snowfall lasts into the early part of the morning. It begins breaking up, but a lot of that snow is going to be mainly to the west of Pecos, west of Fort Stockton, more so toward Carlsbad, Van Horn, Guadalupe Pass. Here we go into about 8:30, 9 a.m., maybe a quick little flurry on top of Midland, Odessa, and well, it's kind of falling apart, moving out toward Marfa, Alpine, and then by your afternoon, a lot of this stuff is gone. All right, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, Okay, the clouds start breaking away, and we are left with possibly seeing a very interesting sunset heading into Sunday night. All right, that doesn't seem too bad. Nice clear skies, especially heading into Monday, and that's going to continue to be the case throughout the majority of the week. All right. Doesn't seem too bad, but I am looking at that ice accumulation. Let's look at those impacts. So we're expecting between 0.1 and potentially 0.5 inches of ice. So I could see at first spotty to no outages. Watch those bridges and overpasses. Definitely drive slower. If we end up getting a little bit more of that ice, we could certainly see a few more of those power outages, those slick roadways, and that travel not necessarily going to be recommended. And here's the thing. We're not looking at a whole lot of those power outages being because of the grid, but more so because of that ice. When ice accumulates on power lines, it weighs them down. You don't want to have any kind of weight on those power lines. That's what tends to cause a lot of them to fall. And of course, maybe even those branches too will fall as well. All right, this looks a little crazy, I know, but Sunday, that's when we're expecting the heaviest potential for that snowfall. That's when we're seeing, wow, that's a lot of snow on the map. But here's kind of what we've been looking at. We've been looking at the chance for that snowfall to be between 1 to 3 inches for much of the Permian Basin, extending to about 5 inches or more in those higher elevations. I've been very consistent with that kind of outlook really since Monday, and that's exactly what we're looking at. Heaviest snowfall potential out toward Guadalupe Pass, toward Artesia, toward Carlsbad, toward Hobbs. They are going to be right off the mountains. They have that nice, really cold air, not just on the surface, but in the upper atmosphere as well. The one thing I don't agree with this model is the potential for 1.5 inches in Marfa, Alpine, and closing in on Fort Stockton. Of course, I could be wrong about that, but I really don't see them seeing a whole lot of that accumulation. And even if they do see that much, it's not going to last too long because those areas tend to be noticeably colder. Okay. I want to bring this up for you. We talk about precipitation types a lot. We've been talking about sleet, freezing rain. What exactly is the difference between all of that? So here is the main four. We got rain, we got freezing rain, we got sleet, we got snow. It all depends on what the temperature is, not just at the surface, which is typically what we measure here. When I say, oh, it's 72 outside, that's the temperature right on the surface. Not directly on it, but about a meter or so up. Now that's where we're going to watch that warm air. Notice how on the map here, that warm air, yeah, it's going to stay in the upper atmosphere. So freezing rain, it falls as rain, hits the ground, and then freezes once it hits the ground because the ground tends to be a little bit colder. That sleet, it's going to fall as rain, freeze in midair, and then kind of fall down to the ground. Very, very similar to small-sized hail. Sometimes if it forms like a little ball, kind of looks like a tiny little hailstone, we call that grapple. Yeah, I know that's a weird term. It sounds like a name of a McDonald's character, but that's what it is. It's going to be grapple. That's going to be not enough to damage your car, but it's going to fall and look and gather like small little hail pellets. Once the atmosphere is completely below 32 degrees, the freezing point, that's when we're going to start seeing that snow accumulation. So how do you drive through all of this? Well, here's a quick example. You're going to run into the chance of that black ice. So you want to keep that steering wheel straight. You don't want to be turning. You don't want to be constantly changing lanes over and over again because that's how you quickly lose control of the vehicle. Don't hit the brakes. You hit the brakes and you don't have grip. Well, the brakes aren't going to do anything. So just take your foot off the accelerator. The car naturally, through what little friction there is on the ground, will begin to slow down. And at that point, you will be much safer then. So here's that quick overlook from the rain to freezing rain to sleet to that snow. And we're seeing a mix of all of that right now across the entirety of the region. Here's a kind of a interesting little map that we got going on here. I got those freezing rain or that ice potential. We're going to see at least a moderate glaze kind of south of Midland, Odessa, more out towards San Angelo and Abilene. And that's because I'm looking at them seeing a much heavier precipitation versus what we're seeing on top of us. And then if we look over toward those snowfall estimates, yeah, maybe trace amounts to maybe an inch or more south of Midland, Odessa, and around Alpine, San Angelo up to Pecos, maybe closer to 3 inches in the northern Permian Basin, while a whole lot of stuff in the Panhandle, they are easily going to see possibly closing in on half a foot of that snowfall. So let's take a look at that 9-day forecast before we begin wrapping up this stream, and I'll continue posting on social media for those updates. I did just post the future track not too recently, so if you want to break down what area you are in terms of seeing those impacts, by all means go ahead and check that out. Go ahead and give me a follow too. I post updates every single day. All right, we're still going weather impact alert for the rest of today, for all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and into Monday as well. Okay, why are we going into Monday? Well, we're not expecting precipitation because by Sunday afternoon, all of this stuff is going to be gone. But here's the thing, we don't get above freezing on Sunday. And even Monday, if the current models hold true into early tomorrow morning, we might extend that impact alert till Tuesday because we're still going to see any kind of accumulations stick around. Now, if it gets as cold, like the single digits on Monday, and we still see a lot of that snow and ice accumulation hanging around the big cities, I will likely see a number of businesses and school delays or even closures during that time. It looks to be we fully recover from all of this by Tuesday afternoon, considering that, yes, we get above freezing and we're going to see warmer temperatures popping in as well. And then, well, it's still going to stay cold. It's still going to be below average. Overall temperatures sticking between those 40s and those 50s. All right, that's going to be a little cold for this time of year. You know what? I think this is karma. This is what I get for saying I want it to be colder and colder. And well, I finally got my wish, but it's going to be over an extended length of time. And you know what? Hey, while we don't have a ton of on-air shows this weekend, or for most weekends, we will continue doing all of the coverage we can through our streaming app. Go ahead, and if you're not on the streaming app, maybe you're on Facebook right now, go ahead and download the News West 9 app. It's completely free on the App Store and Google Play. Our streams are all free too. We're local media. We tend to do everything that we can as free as possible. Go ahead and scan that QR code. You will get access to download that, and we will keep you updated with the latest information. Until then, stay safe out there, everyone.